Well, this is an episode I've been looking forward to since I spoke to this man on the phone 2 weeks ago. I've known him for a long time, which we'll get to. He was one of the great leg spinners and an entertainer on the cricket field. He's been through a reasonably tough time at the moment, so I appreciate that he is joining us on the Howie Games. Stuart MacGill. Stu, great to see you. How you going?
It's lovely to see you too, old man.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. But before that, we just had a cuppa downstairs here in Sydney.
Cup of tea.
And you've got a movie review for me because you're you're a good man.
Oh, no. Look, Howie, so you've been doing some research about me in the last couple of weeks, and I thought, you know what, I've got to do a bit of research about Howie too, because I haven't seen you for a long time. And I thought to myself, I'm pretty sure somewhere in the back of my head, Howie's a surfer.
Good by you.
And so there's a new movie out on Stan at the moment called, I think it's called The Surfer.
Yes.
It's got Nicolas Cage in it. Julian
Always
McMahon.
in good films.
Oh, well, look, he's in lots of films, isn't he?
Yes.
Well, all I'm going to say about it, Howie, is that... well, Nicholas has made some better films. And if I were you, look, keep your Stan subscription because you've got great sport and great shows, but I'm not sure if that's one of the ones that I'd put at the top of your list.
But I'm touched that you watched that to get in tune with me this morning before we did this.
I just wanted to catch a wave with you, Howie.
Okay. I was thinking back when we spoke the other day, so I will take you, and this is where you mentioned old man. It's 2001, and I just looked at it. Australia dominated the Ashes.
Yep.
They smashed England, but you weren't on that tour.
No.
I was a very junior producer on Sports World on Channel 7.
Yep.
And you were our cricket expert, Stuart.
Yes,
so you used to fly down to Melbourne to record it with Joe Griggs and Dermot Brereton.
And Dermy, yeah. That was actually some of the best times of my life, to be honest. I had an absolute ball. I used to fly down. One of my best mates used to live in Melbourne, so a schoolmate. So I used to fly down on Friday. We'd have lunch. and get pretty large, swim through, and then Saturday we'd do a production meeting.
We did, which weren't that involved, to be honest. Really.
Well, Joe had a stack of notes. Dermy and I were just sitting there with our feet up on the table.
Correct.
And you obviously did the research for the two of us.
Yes.
And then Sunday morning early film. And I was back home normally by about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It was great. That was a really good time. I remember I used to stay in Crown Towers and watch the cricket with a glass of wine next to the bath because there was a TV in the bath.
And then you had to talk about that cricket the next day.
That's what it was. So that's how I did my research. Glass of wine, feet up in the bath watching the TV.
So I found a photo, and I should have brought it with me, and I'm going to take a photo of it and send it to you, of it must have been end of season wrap party.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a photo of me sitting between you and Derm, and I am, for some reason, I must have had a couple of wines. I'm trying to flex a bicep that I don't have. And Dermot is sitting there holding his fingers as if to say they're minuscule, and you're laughing your head off. But, Stewie,
I want to see that photo.
I'm going to send you that photo. My grandfather always said to me, treat people as they treat you. So I was a 23-year-old, 24-year-old kid, making my way slowly in sports television, and wasn't used to dealing at that stage with superstar athletes, which you were, and Derm was. So you were an Australian cricketer.
Yeah.
I grew up loving cricket, and you were probably my first interaction with a real-life Australian cricketer.
There we go. And look at you now.
Well, but I would ring you, and if you didn't answer, you would ring me back within 5 minutes. And I'll never forget it, Stewie. We'd be talking about what we're going to talk about on the Sunday.
Yeah.
But for the first 2 or 3 minutes, you would ask me questions about me. So I'm a 23-year-old kid. This is, I want to say 15 years ago, but unfortunately, it's a lot further. Yeah. And as my grandfather said, treat people how they treat you. Yeah. And I'll never forget that because you were my first introduction to a big-name athlete, and you were very kind to me.
Well, by the time you get to my age, you won't remember it anymore, Howie. So.
Right. So as a result of that, the great Brad Buzzard McNamara from Fox, I said to him the other day, I'll take one step back. I'm going to stop talking in a moment. It's going to be all you talking, but I was doing a Big Bash game with Shane Watson.
Yep.
And he said, oh, mate, this week, my young fella, is it Will?
Yes.
He did an hour or two clinic with Stuart MacGill about leg spin. And Watto is now coaching teams in America. And
I saw him on the TV this morning.
In the major cricket league. Yeah. And he said that he watching you coach Will, learnt more about leg spin in an hour and a half than he had in his entire cricket career. And I immediately thought, right, I need to get this man on the podcast.
Oh, that's good. Thank you, Watto. Yeah.
So the young fellas. Like I'm
Yeah.
I'm a 51-year-old bowling leg spin now for Bowenhead's C grade, and my son got up to C grade this year. He's 13.
Yeah, nice.
And Stewie, we spent 20 overs, 10 at each end, bowling tandem leg spin.
Right.
The greatest hour of my life. He got 4 for, I got smacked.
Yeah, but
it was fantastic.
Well, look, you just, he got 4 for, but normally, I mean, people always used to say to me, oh, you get more wickets than Warne when you play together. My response to that is, the reason I would get the wickets is because Warne was up the other end.
So you're calling me Warne?
I'm calling you Warne
and he was
your
MacGill.
son's Stuart MacGill, whatever it is.
So do you enjoy that passing on of knowledge? Because Watto could not speak more highly about it.
Well, look, my first thought, Howie, to be honest, is that I probably need to get in the nets with both you and your son if you're both playing. So
tell me about it.
We need to put in an hour there sometime so I can sort of, teach you what's what. But the first thing I say to anybody that I'm coaching, and I normally start with kids around about 14, 15, because I like to be able to push people. Physically as well. We run in between every over and stuff like that. I don't, but I sort of stand there with a whistle. But I like to sort of really run people into the ground because obviously as you get further up the cricketing ladder, it becomes more and more stressful physically and mentally. And so I like to sort of train in that stressed environment just because then I think it's like resistance training, if you like, and then it's easier when you get into a match situation. And quite often running, if you come back to the top of the mark and you're puffed, it's like you've chased the ball, or it's also like if you've been smacked for a couple of sixes because the panic sets in.
The heart rate.
Yeah, heart rate elevates, panic sets in, your shoulders are up, you tense up, and you've got to learn how to deal with that. And so that sort of forms the foundation of what I do. And I'm also very structured in the approach for each session. It's normally about 50 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how much we do. But it's all about repetition because the hardest thing, particularly for wrist spinners, finger spinners have a little bit of an easier game just because biomechanically, it's a little bit easier, a little bit more straight lines.
Yes.
But wrist spin, there's a hell of a lot of rotation, and the margin for error is it's tiny. Unfortunately, you do get used to bowling bad balls, and that's one of the other lessons I teach all the young blokes. You're gonna get hit for 6. Even your grandma could hit you for 6.
Yeah.
With all due respect to your grandma.
Yeah.
But the question is how you recover from it, and knowing that they're probably not going to be able to hit you for 6 over and over and over again. I mean, not very many people in the history of the game have been hit for 6 in an over. So, you don't need to worry about that too much. You just need to go back to the top of your mark and start again. I liken bowling to a penalty kick in soccer, football, because it's a set play. Every single ball that you bowl is a set play. The batsman does not get involved at all until I let go of the ball. So realistically speaking, I can get everything right, and then the rest is just up to the gods. And that's the bit that bowlers forget quite often. They forget that it doesn't matter if the batsman's halfway down the pitch or if he's Darren Lehman or Michael Bevan or, Sachin Tendulkar. If I get my stuff right, then I'm a good chance of, at least troubling him. And even if they do hit your best ball for 4, can they do it again? Can they do it again? And that's the tough thing for batsmen. If they make one mistake, they're gone. If I make a mistake, I just get to turn around and go again.
I love your passion for it. I love anyone that comes on this show and that has passion. There's so much cricket to talk about, but again, referring back to when I rang you, whether you're happy to talk about this, you said there's one person I need to speak to, because I presume I'm not the first person to ask you to come and have a chat about your life in recent times.
Yeah, sure. I don't normally answer the phone, Howie.
No, and I appreciated that. that. So you had one person you wanted to check in with?
Yeah, I just wanted to I'm really very close with my son, Alex. He's 22, and we share a lot of the same interests, actually, and he's a good egg. But I just really wanted to touch base with him and see what he thought, whether he thought it was a good idea or not. And he said, well, he seems like a good bloke. And I said, well, actually, I know him. But, I just wanted to make sure that, because I know for all of the difficulties that I've been through in the last sort of 5 years, Lots of my own making, I might add. My kids have had to put up with it. See, I can just turn the media off, but as we discussed when we're having a coffee, it's very, very difficult for kids to turn social media off.
My word, it is.
I just did it. I just have no idea what people are saying about me, and I didn't really care, but I did care about what was happening to the kids, and I know it's been very difficult for them.
You said he comes around a few times a week over our cuppa. Tell the good people that listen to the Howie Games what he does when he leaves your joint. Which I really... Because I told you, I've been watching a lot of YouTube, which I'm going to show you some of, and I was loving your bowling, but you said he has another use for YouTube.
Yeah. So he does, he quite often puts YouTube on. We sit down and it's like, I roll my eyes, and he always sort of happens to end up, oh, look, there's Stuart MacGill bowling. Oh, great. Oh, that's excellent, Alex. Awesome. But his favourite thing to do when he was leaving my house, if I was in another room or something, he'd turn YouTube on and it'd be Stuart MacGill gets smashed by Damien Martin, and he'd just leave that on for me. So
leave
it on. So I come back in the room and, oh, God, here we go again. And Marto did smash me too, I might add.
Before we start your cricket journey, how are you going? Honest, open question.
Honest, open question. Look, I'm not flying. I get a little bit bored, to be honest, because I'm not working much. So I do, doing my coaching, but other than that, I'm not really working much, which is a bit of a pain, to be honest, because I have a pretty active kind of mind, and trying to shut that off is hard work. Lots of TV, but I don't mind my own company, which is a good thing. Get lonely sometimes, but I think that's happened to a lot of people since COVID. We're all getting over it now. But that's probably one of the reasons why I decided to come in here. It's good to get out of the house, and it's good to make contact with other people every now and then, particularly people that you don't see all the time. And my network used to always be a big part of who I was. Knew lots of people, and I've found that I've just closed it right down since I've needed to manage my environment a little bit more carefully. I maybe that's actually part of the reason why I got into trouble, because I just expanded too much. I always just sort of thought, you meet two people, you introduce them, that's what you do. But that's not always the best move.
No, which we'll get to. But there's sunshine in your day, Stewie?
Yeah, mate, look, though I don't like opening the curtains too much, but no, I don't. I'm very lucky, I guess, because depression has never really been a big thing for me. I get anxious. Yep. And I won't lie about that. I get very anxious, and but I don't really get depressed. I'm a big fan. People talk about the half full, half empty situation. Well, I've always said, okay, I'm neither of them. I'm completely empty. And the reason I say that is if today's the worst day of your life, then tomorrow's going to be slightly fuller. There's always an up. If you've hit rock bottom, then there's sunshine ahead. And I've always been able to do that. And if anything particularly bothers me, I just don't think about it. And I learned that through playing Test cricket. If you have a bad day, don't buy the paper. If you have a good day, buy every paper in the stand.
I love that. Yeah. And it is genuinely good to see you, mate. And it's good to see you with a smile on your face.
Very attractive.
No, you are. You're a good-looking man.
Very good looking.
With quite the moniker. So it drives some people crazy. And I get social media messages, why do you always introduce him as M.E.K. Hussey, etc., or M.E. War? Why? But it's a cricket thing.
Yeah.
But your initials.
Yeah, good ones.
Tell the people and tell me what your name in origin is, because it's a great name for a leg spinner growing up in New South Wales.
Yeah, well, I didn't grow up in New South Wales.
No, we'll get to West Australia.
So growing up in Perth with the initials of SCG MacGill, which is kind of funny. So I guess I was always destined to play at the SCG.
What's
as my home ground.
SCG?
So it's Stuart Charles Glendour.
Right. Is that
Welsh? Welsh.
Right.
So they're my grandfather's names, Charles and Glendour. But it's pretty cool. And I remember coming to the SCG when I was about I don't know, 12 or 13, and I bought an SCG tie, which I still have. It was a big fat number.
Was it?
Yeah. But blue tie with SCG in gold, and I thought that was pretty cool. And lots of people, Warnie's got a stand name after him. I've got a ground.
You do, you do. But you mentioned relatives.
Yeah.
A long line of cricketers.
Yeah.
From the MacGills going back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a third generation first class player. My grandfather.
How cool's that?
Yeah, it's really cool. My grandfather Charlie. He's the cricketing equivalent of a convict because he was a chucker.
Was he?
Yeah. He's in a book called Chuckers, which is pretty cool. But he used to open the batting and the bowling for WA and pinged them.
Right.
He knocked over Bradman once.
Did he?
Yeah, he got and made 70 in the same.
Did you have a relationship with him? You spoke to him?
My grandpa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you must have asked him about knocking over Bradman.
Yeah. Well, so he's pretty reserved, kind of kept his, thoughts to be very modest.
If I'm knocking over Bradman,
he's telling everybody.
I ain't reserved.
Well, I'll tell you that the story.
Please do.
Bradman is my first Test match was in Adelaide.
Yep.
And we like going out for dinner. So my parents and I bought a book of a magazine of the best restaurants in Australia, and we went through what was the best one in Adelaide at the time. And there were sort of 3 or 4 options, but we chose one called Jarmas, which is in South Kensington there. And we're sitting down there, and halfway through dinner, Dad said, "Oh, Bradman's sitting over there." And I went, and I.
So how old are you?
I was 28.
Right.
So
okay.
because it was my first day of my first Test match.
Yeah.
And Dad was sort of, and I just sort of, I hated people coming up to, you when you were eating.
Yep.
I don't like that. I remember growing up with Dennis Lilly, who used to always get bothered. He was a good friend of the family, and he'd have a fork halfway to his mouth, and there'd be a guy there talking about his fourth
I don't mean to interrupt you, but
yeah, it's
but
like,
I'm going
no, seriously. So I left him alone. Anyway, then they walked out the restaurant, and I thought, you know what? Don't be a dick. And so I chased them out of the restaurant, and I said, "Oh, look, Sir Donald, my name's Stuart MacGill. And he said, I know who you are, son. Well bowled today." And then he said, "My goodness, your grandfather could bowl."
Really?
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then actually,
wow, great story,
good
Stu.
story. Well, I'll tell you what's even funnier than that. Then my dad came over, chased me out, and he said, "G'day, Terry, how you going?" And I'm like, "What's it?
How good's my dad?"
Yeah, how good's my dad? So, yeah, my dad played about a dozen Shield games as well.
Yep.
Grandpa's career was sort of messed up by the Second World War.
He was in the RAF, I wrote down here.
Yeah, so that sort of messed it up a little bit. I think he played for Essendon Cricket Club in Melbourne as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but he was a bit of a hero, ballroom dancing, AFL, cricket coach and player, and, he was a bit of a legend. So, Dad's the sensible one, never drunk in his life, never drunk alcohol in his life, but, and a bodybuilder, and I'm the mishmash of everybody, so.
So when do you first start playing? Well, no, actually, this is my favourite question with any cricketer.
Okay.
Tell me about the backyard/front yard setup where Stewie MacGill played cricket, and who'd you play with? And was there certain trees that were out, or the greenhouse?
No, we were lucky. We grew up in Floret Park in WA, and
nice.
had a big sized back garden. I'd say the pitch was probably about 3/4, which is pretty good, especially for a kid.
Yeah.
And there was a big tree there that was the stumps. And we used to, because I wasn't really, have an idea that, I didn't realise in Australia they actually had to put clay in for pitches, because in England they just roll them out.
Yeah.
So we tried to do the same thing as they do in England. So I used to make sure all the grass was dead, so I'd kill it all. But I was a demon quick in those days.
You?
Oh, yeah. I would. Mum and Dad are great friends with the Lilly family, so I just wanted to be, Uncle Dennis.
So you were hanging out with Uncle Dennis?
Yeah.
Oh,
every time we went round to his
you're
house.
dropping some good ones.
I've got
Lily,
some names in there.
Running 15 minutes in.
And I know Mark Howard.
Right, well, there you go. Bradman, Lily, Howard, you've dropped off a touch
now.
There
we go, yeah.
So you hang with DK?
Yeah, well, even to the point when I was a little boy, we used to go around to his house, and it's a little bit embarrassing, but you got to remember this is the early 70s.
Yeah.
He used to always put on Song Sung Blue by Neil Diamond.
Did he?
Every time we'd go round to his house.
Did he?
For me. And I remember being, I don't know, 3-4 years old, sitting in the back of the car going, I wonder if it's going to be on. And he always had it on. So, but later on, he introduced me to quite a lot of music. actually, and which I think that's part of the reason why I really liked him, because his interests extended to, music, wine, living, which is sort of the same as me, lots of experiences. I remember once I wanted to go to an Elton John concert, and it was at the time where I was sort of flying pretty high in Sydney, and I could arrange anything. And I couldn't get a ticket to Elton John. I just seemed to remember in the back of my head Dennis talking about Elton and being mates with him and stuff like that. So I called my dad and I said, listen, outside chance, I don't suppose Dennis could. I reckon 10 minutes. I had 2 tickets to Elton John.
Bloody Dennis Lilly.
Dennis Lilly. So there we go. Contacts, mate. Contacts.
Wow.
Yeah.
So who would you have first played a game of cricket for? In whites, probably in your shorts.
My dad coached us. We were playing for, I don't know if it was Subi Floreat or just Floreat Cricket Club, but juniors. But I'd say Subi Floreat. I'd say I was about 6.
Okay.
My best mate was Michael Simpson. We used to play in the back garden quite a bit together, and he ended up playing first grade at Subi Floreat, which, So it's funny actually. So we 6 years old. And I tried to bowl fast, as I said. The spin bowling, I think it actually came pretty soon after that, because Dad was a leg spin bowler.
Your dad was?
Yeah. So I think I was in the front garden of Michael's house.
Yeah.
And they had a shorter pitch than me, and I bowled one. And Michael's dad, Peter, was there, and he said, that's you just bowled a googly. And I didn't know what the hell that was. But from then I bowled spin and pace till I was about 13. I tried to bowl quick, and I was slow. You'd probably see me in the field, slow and stodgy. So spin bowling was, much more suited to me.
So then as a kid, did you have a day that sticks in your mind where you got like a bowling your leggies in junior cricket, like a 3 or a 5 or 6 or a 7 or an 8 for? Do you have a big day?
Not really as a kid, to be honest. I didn't really play much first 11 at school either.
Did you not?
No. So when I was about 17, I'd been trying to bowl a wrong one for a long time. And when I was 17, and bear in mind, they didn't have the same sort of video technology then, especially
close-ups.
close-ups.
The old camcorder.
Yeah, so, and you can't see it anyway then. So when I'd try to bowl a wrong one for so long that in the end I lost my leg break. Couldn't bowl a leg break at all.
Which is the great fear, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. And the problem with that is then I didn't really know how to get it back. And because you can't see it. So in the end, you might notice when I run into bowl, I'm sort of, my head's up and I'm looking up right up here. It's not because I'm trying to keep my head up. It's actually because I was looking at my bowling hand to make sure that my wrist was in the right position so I could bowl a leg break.
As you were letting it go?
Yeah. I was like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how I taught myself how to bowl a leg break again. Because of that, I didn't really have great memories of bowling spin. I knew I could turn it, and then I couldn't, and then good wrong, and then I lost my wrong, and but then all of a sudden when I left school, I was playing for North Perth Cricket Club, and which is now Joondalup, North Perth Cricket Club, and I played one game, and I got in a 4th grade. I got hit for 9 sixes. Which was it was a guy called, I think his name, Justin Quinn Schofield. I think his son plays for the club now.
He hit you for
9 sixes. So, so that was pretty bad. I remember that. And then the week after, I got 6 for 40. And then the week after that, I got wickets. And then from there, it literally happened that quickly.
Did it?
Yeah. 9 sixes, 6 for 40, and then pretty much every week then I'd get 4 or 5 wickets, and then moved up the grades and to the time when I was sort of 18 and got picked for the WA under-19s, which I didn't even know existed.
Just take you back one step. What was your first ever cricket bat?
It's a good question. My first cricket bat was a Stuart Surridge, and Dennis signed it because I got a story about that too.
Go on then.
Yeah. So
you got a story about everything you do.
Dear Stuart, lots of love, Uncle Dennis.
On the
then
bat?
signed it on the right. And then all of a sudden, one day I lost it. I didn't know where it was. It's gone. 35 years later.
No.
35 years later, the whacker calls me and says,
"No,
did you used to have a Stuart Surridge bat?" And because somebody had found it. It was at the place that we used to play, McLean Oval in Floreat, and I'd just left it in the grass. I'm lazy kid, and he'd grabbed the bat and he put it on top of a wardrobe, and he was clearing out the house, found the bat and looked at it and saw Dennis Lilly's signature on the back, and then he saw my name and address on the top, Stuart MacGill, 4 Armadale Street, Floreat Park, and he said, couldn't really be those two, could it? And so he called the Wacker, and so it's in the museum at the Wacker.
That is a great story.
Yeah, so if you want to see my bat, mate, it's at the Wacker.
So you progress, and then I've written it down here. Well, actually, Warnie's a big part of your story, and I'm going to get you to read something later on.
Yeah.
But were you at the AIS with Warnie?
No, I was a year after him.
You were
actually.
a year after Warnie.
Yeah.
Okay, so you play your first class game for WA 93-94 at the SCG.
Yep.
And got how many wickets?
None for.
I've got that written there. 0 wickets.
I think none for 90 or something off 33, something like that. I actually bowled pretty well. I remember having 3 or 4 catches dropped, but Michael Bevan made 200. So what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you end up from WA? Like Gilly went the other way. He was in New South Wales.
Yeah.
Went to WA. How did you end up from WA to New South Wales?
Look, I was bowling well. I did quite well in grade cricket, but the reality was at most in WA, and it's not because the Wacker is no good for spin bowling. It's I've played there a number of times now, and I quite enjoyed bowling there. It's unforgiving because the outfield's so quick and the pitch is true, but at most you're only going to play sort of half the games, and even if you do play at the Wacker, you're not going to bowl half the overs. And I kind of say to everybody, if you bowl half the overs, you get half the wickets. Well, that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
It's a good theory.
So I looked around and I thought, look, because I was 24, turning 25, and cricket had taken up an enormous amount of time. Probably to the detriment of employment and education.
But are you thinking I've got a future in this game?
I know. I'm thinking if I've got a future in this game, we got to find out right now.
That's good answer, Stu.
That's what I was thinking. And I looked around. Warne was in Victoria. Peter McIntyre was in South Australia. Victoria also had Craig Howard, who was a very, very handy bowler. Brisbane, I thought I might end up in the same situation as I was in Perth. And Tasmania, certainly in those days, was a bit of a graveyard for bowlers. If you went down there from another state, it was cold, it was wet, you had to learn different skills. Great place for Tasmanians to play, not so good for incoming bowlers. So New South Wales had 6 spin bowlers in the state squad, but no right-hand leg spinners. And I wasn't put into the state squad in New South Wales to start with. But I just took a punt. Right,
so no guarantee.
No guarantee at all. But I was very lucky. Jeff Lawson was the coach of New South Wales, and he invited me to train with them right from the very beginning. And so that was sort of, I guess, 2-3 times a week. And, I never really looked back. I think I got put into the squad at the end of that year or the beginning of the next. So that was 95-6 season.
So as all this is happening, Warnie comes on to the scene. He does what he does to Gatting, and then someone told me this, and I couldn't verify it. England arrive and need to face a leg spinner. Is this a true story?
True story. Yeah. So I remember seeing that ball, the Gatting ball. England comes out to Australia for the next tour, and I used to bowl in the nets to visiting teams quite often. And there's a journalist called Mark Ray. You probably know him. Yeah. He's a great bloke. He knew that I bowled leggies, and he said to me, "Why don't you bowl to the England team?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'd like to do that." And they actually employed me. They paid me.
You got paid?
They paid me.
To be a net bowler?
Yeah, £100 a day. I got £100 a day, which, I was a 22-year-old, 23-year-old. And hadn't played for for WA. I was still in WA in those days, right? And so for that entire because they played the Lilac Hill game. They played against
the
Western
Lilac
Australia.
Hill game.
So they were in Perth for about 2 weeks. So I made a fortune. But
You just get your 100 quid per
100
day.
quid, yeah. But the funny thing, I remember being out at Lilac Hill with them, and I was bowling to, I think, Mike Athen, and everybody's looking at me because I was bowling well, but I hadn't played for WA. Nobody knew who I was, and I was telling him how to. I remember saying to Athens, mate, I think you're going sideways on the crease. You're not coming, and so I was looking at it, and it was quite arrogant of me to even be doing it, but that's what they wanted me to do. But the funny thing is, I think in the first test or the second test, Warne got a hat trick and he just rolled through him. I was useless.
So you didn't really
I didn't help him out at all. But then the next tour they came out to Australia, I was playing against them. So
which is
awesome.
extraordinary, isn't it?
It happened pretty quick.
So you go well for New South Wales.
Yeah.
You take 6 against Victoria, 96, 97. The 30th of January 1998, you come in to bowl your first over in Test cricket, which I want to show you a bit in a moment. But how do you, these days, there's media releases, there's presentations of caps. How do you find out that you're going to, in a short period of time, from what you said, represent your country bowling leg spin?
Well, I'd had a good season.
Yep.
But to be honest, I mean, Bevo was in the team, bowling his left arm wristies, and Warnie's in the team. And so it just didn't really cross my mind. I mean, I'd sort of hoped that I could move myself into a second place situation at some stage. But Australia had shown no real inclination to bowl two wrist spinners, two right-hand wrist spinners. But then there was a tour of India coming up.
Yep.
And I'd been picked for Australia A. I think I played against South Africa up in the Gabba and, didn't do much, but mind you, none of our bowlers really did much. But then I had a good game against them for New South Wales.
Yep.
And that helped, I'm sure. But I still wasn't really thinking about it. And then I remember playing a grade game for North Sydney at Drummoyne Oval. And all of a sudden they had, at Drummoyne Oval, they've got this, the phone that goes over the loudspeaker, so you can hear the phone ring. The phone just starts going bananas, and nobody really knew what it was. All of us was sort of going, answer the bloody thing, will you? And then Trent Johnson, who's a mate of mine and coached New South Wales and Ireland, and now Hawkesbury, he came up to me. He said, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing next week, Australia Day?" And I said, "I don't know. I'll probably just be, on the couch or something." And he said, No, you're going to Adelaide. And I said, "I'm not going to Adelaide, you idiot." He said, "Yeah, no, you're going to Adelaide. You've been, it still makes me sort of, choke up, actually. You've been picked to play for Australia, that's pretty cool." And, so it's still every
I love
single
the emotion in it.
Well, look, it's really funny because I don't think about it ever, until you ask me. And yet every single time anybody asks me, I feel like bursting into tears, which is kind of dumb. But anyway, it was a pretty big thing. And it was a great moment. And I thought that I'd just been picked to give me some experience in case I got taken to India.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise at the time that Paul Rifle had actually broken his finger. And he was in the 12 as well. So even the night before, I remember calling my parents saying, "Look, I can't really see how I'm getting into this team. So don't stress too much about coming to watch because, I don't think I'll be playing." And then in the morning, Mark Taylor said, as you guys all know, Pistol's got a broken finger. And I'm kind of going, well, I didn't know that. Nobody told me that.
I'm in the dark.
And he said, and so that means that Stuart MacGill's the 374th player to play for Australia. And I thought, well, there you go. So, it was pretty awesome, mate. It was pretty awesome.
Put your headsets on.
Okay.
Yeah. So I told you on YouTube.
Yeah.
There is your first over in Test cricket. So I want to play it to you. There's an interesting comment from Bill Laurie, which will become evident as he says it. But this is...
Regardless of what he says, he's a good bloke, Bill.
Hopefully you can hear this. No, it's interesting what he says. Here we go.
So handsome.
So handsome. Warne didn't turn the ball much. Let's have a look at your first ball. Right on the spot. Right on the spot.
You know, I remember. So, as Richie said, I'd taken some wickets that summer already, and I was bowling pretty well, feeling pretty good. But when I was standing at the top of my mark, I was genuinely thinking, "Is this going to land?" So I thought,
as every leg spinner does at the start of every freaking spell.
Absolutely positive it was going to be a chest high fully. It's funny. I reckon it probably lands on the spot because I choked, kind of.
Right.
But, it seemed to be pretty good. I think I bowled 5 dots and then got hit for 4 on the last ball. But,
Whack them on again.
Oh,
whack
great. Thanks.
No, whack them on again. No, this is not you getting hit for 4. So I wish I could. I have to turn around. I want to see your face at the same time. So your first ever wicket in Test cricket.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not a bunny either. It's a gentleman by the name of Jacques Kallis, who was on the way to becoming one of the greatest cricketers of all time.
Sure was.
Here we go. Let's Hansy's up the other end.
Yeah,
Here
right.
we go.
Yeah. Backspinner.
And not only is your first wicket, you got bloody Tony Greig. Oh, he's got him. He's got him. So your first ever wicket in Test cricket.
Absolute bonus, wasn't it? No, see, look, the good thing for me was that I managed to pick him up again with a ball later in my career at the SCG, which I loved. That was probably my favourite wicket, getting Jacques Kallis out. That he'd been sweeping me at the time. Adelaide was quite narrow, footy field, and he'd been sweeping me a bit. And that's the first variation I bowled in Test cricket.
Was it
the first one I bowled? Yeah.
So the first non-leg spinner.
The first non-leg spinner I bowled got out Jacques Kallis.
So when you came on, the first thing Bill said was, Warne hasn't been turning it much. So before you bowled a ball in Test cricket,
that's
comparisons
funny.
are made between you and Shane Warne.
I'd never actually thought about that, Howie. That's interesting.
I want you to read something.
Enter glasses.
Yeah, enter glasses. So there's a bit to get through here, but you wrote an article after Shane's passing.
Right.
Okay, and at twice in this podcast, I'd love you to read excerpts from it. I've sort of cut and pasted a little bit, but there's so many theories about you and Warne and whether you worked well together, whether you didn't work well together. The age-old question, how many tests would Stuart have played if you hadn't been in Shane Warne's time? Every question I had about that was answered in the first 3 paragraphs of this article, which is a beautiful article. So in your words, if you could read that page, that'd be great. This was after
Read
Warne's
the page.
passing.
Okay.
Yep.
The first question I'm asked whenever I meet somebody who loves cricket is, what was it like to live in Shane Warne's shadow? It's generally framed in the negative, as if Shane's success and mine were somehow mutually exclusive because of the nature of our craft, but I've never seen it that way. I have regrets, of course, but playing in the same era as Shane Warne has never, ever been one of them. I loved my life in the shadow, just as he lived large in the light. That's very true. I think of Shane as a giant sunflower, colourful and vibrant, thriving in the sunlight and captivating all fortunate enough to see him. I'm more the other kind of plant, preferring to live my life, live out my days in the shadows, like a mushroom, I reckon, Howie. He was the star, I was the stunt double, and I think we both played our roles well. I'm the lucky one in this story. That's pretty true, I reckon.
The next paragraph, just read the next paragraph, because this is a really interesting observation that I wouldn't have come to myself.
Okay. I probably wouldn't have played international cricket in the first place without Shane's success. That's very true. Australian cricket in the 70s and 80s was all about pace bowling. That all changed when Shane arrived on the scene in the early 90s and accounted for half the overs and half the wickets. Consequently, when he was injured or for a year there suspended, he had to be replaced. And that was my window. Whether or not I was effective during my time in the Test team is irrelevant, in my opinion. What's most significant is the fact that the opportunity in the first place only came about because of Shane's effectiveness.
So I am so glad I read that article because it prevented me asking a series of what would have been irrelevant questions about you and Warne.
I'm sure they wouldn't have been.
Well, no, they would have, because they would have been the cliched, do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't played in Warne's generation? And within the 3 paragraphs, it illuminated to me the relationship you had with him.
Well, it was obviously, I was feeding off him, really. You know, I'm a little parasite. But it's true though, because I think what's happened, and you can see that in even cricket at the moment, the reluctance to play a wrist spinner when you can see that perceived risks are there. You know, I mean, the reason that Shane was so incredibly effective was he just didn't bowl bad balls, whereas I did. But he worked on trapping the batsman at the crease. I worked on getting the batsman to try and score from me.
Yep.
And so complete opposites. I mean, I had lunch with Ian Chappell last week, and he actually made the same observation. And he said, if there was ever going to be a pair of wrist spinners to play together, it's probably you two, because you tried to do two different things. And it's true. But the good thing is, even though I couldn't do what he did, I was able to still, base my career on the theory that you only need 10 wickets. And if you get them quick enough, then your team's going to probably win. And so he tried to take wickets by strangling a batsman, and I just tried to knock him over by bowling a big one.
Well, and I'm going to show you some more clips, but I said to you downstairs over a cuppa, I went into this YouTube hole of watching you bowl, and
I apologise.
The amount you would spin the ball. So when you talked about they wouldn't play two together, it was last year and the year before in the Big Bash for Adelaide, Boyce and Pope had periods where they were in the team together and got Adelaide to the finals.
That's right.
Sitting in the commentary box, that has been my most fun Big Bash period when there's two leg spinners bowling. This is bums on seats. This is entertainment plus, Stewie.
It's runs and wickets.
Yes.
That's the big thing.
Exactly.
It's none of this sort of boring, stifling stuff, We sort of, like to bring the crowds back.
Put these on again. So after that test match, right, you go to Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
Which we were talking about downstairs. You got some fond memories of Pakistan.
Love Pakistan.
So in Pakistan, here we go. Where have I got this? On this sheet of the paper. Here we go. So next test in Rawalpindi against Pakistan. Let's just watch these. This is brilliant. That's just too good.
I hope you don't have stump mic on for this one.
This one?
No, next one, actually.
I'll ask you why in a minute.
Yeah.
So we're just watching. It's just masterful watching it, and so you take in this match. You take 556, 447. Yeah. Before I ask you about the stump mic, isn't it great to hear the voice of David Hooks?
David Hooks in there, yeah, it was cool. Yeah, he was a good bloke, Hooksy.
Yeah. So this is you. You'll defer and say, no, but this is you, like showing mastery, like big spinning leg spinners ripping through a subcontinental team on their home deck. Like that's boys' own stuff.
I think it was the first series we'd won in Pakistan for 39 years, I reckon it was.
There you go.
Yeah, so it was pretty big because we'd narrowly missed out the tour before, but that was big for us. I mean, it was a pretty uneventful tour, to be honest. I think we won one of the tests out of the three, and then there were two draws, including the real high-scoring one in Peshawar where Mark Taylor made 330 or
334 to equal the Don.
Yeah, that's right. But the good thing for me was that was the first time I'd been the number one spinner in the team.
Yeah.
So that was a very important test match for me, because had I not sort of done well in Pakistan, I think I probably would have had a very short career, or certainly it would have been a lot more pressure on me. But that stood me in good, held me in good stead coming back to Australia for the next summer.
What's it like finishing a test match, being the match winner for Australia? That's a nice smile.
I'll tell you what, look, Mark Taylor was very, very good about this too. Whenever you had a good test match and when you had a good moment, he said, enjoy it.
Yep.
He said, and I believe it wholeheartedly because you never know when your next good day is going to come. So when you have a good moment, and it's anything in life, celebrate it, and so I did.
Can you tell me what was said in the stump, Mike, at that particular time?
No, well, there'd been a couple of drop catches.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I got somebody out the ball afterwards.
Right.
And look, let's just say batsmen reckon that if a bowler sends you off, it's the worst sin of all time. I am a bowler. I'm a spin bowler, and I'm an angry spin bowler. And I reckon quite the opposite. I reckon if you say something to the batsman as they're walking off, they're going to be thinking about it all the way in.
Yes.
In the changing rooms, they're going to be throwing their kit around thinking about you.
Right.
And batsmen remember you for a very, very long time if you get under their skin.
Who was that batsman?
No, I can't remember at the time.
Did you or did you not, on this tour of Pakistan, read 17 books?
Actually,
that's a bloody good effort, Stewie.
Funnily enough, I read 21.
21 books?
Yeah. I don't know. You know what's really funny? I've changed. Actually, maybe I read 17, and it's good that they've changed it. For a while there, it said 21 on Wikipedia,
right? And
I kept changing it to 17.
Right.
And and Wikipedia, and they said reference not accepted. And I'm going, it was me. I did it. But yeah, look, don't get excited about the books. I don't read anything sort of too highbrow. It's basically just going to Dimmicks and sort of pull off the shelf. And I mean, I read one time when the Da Vinci Code first came out, it came out in a big format hardback. So I bought that, read that, and then they bought it out in soft cover and it didn't work, so they changed the format of that. I bought all three of them, and because I didn't even know what I was buying. I just buy all the books that are on the bestsellers list. Yeah. And 3 times I started that book and went, oh, God, you've read this before. So, yeah, you're a bloody idiot. So I don't
know quite how to frame this question. Yeah. You were... There's no such thing as a typical Australian cricketer, but there's a stereotype of a typical Australian cricketer. Goes on tour, drinks beer, spends all the time in the change rooms with his mates, probably doesn't read books, doesn't drink red wine. Yeah. I'm not saying you were different to the average Australian cricketer. You were different to the stereotype that we see as the typical Australian cricketer. Fair comment?
Yeah, probably different to a lot of Australian blokes, maybe.
Yes, yes, that's a good. That's
you can take it out of cricket. But look, the thing is, I guess. Part of the reason for that, I think, is, I was 28 before I played for Australia. So I'd sort of done a lot of development. I didn't grow up in the team like, let's say Ricky Ponting grew up in the cricket team, Yeah. I'd worked in hospitality, worked in bars and restaurants and stuff. So wine was sort of on the table there. And I really did like... I liked, so lifestyle for me is about, food, wine, vista, conversation, music, you know. There's sort of like a jigsaw puzzle and they all kind of drop in. And that's what I like to sort of fit in there. You can chuck in, film and books in there too, although my eyesight's going a bit nowadays. But I just liked, I had lots of interests and I just tried to make sure I immersed myself in that. Part of the reason that I liked reading books during tours and liked doing all those outside things is I found cricket very, very difficult. It wasn't that I didn't like cricket. And as you just said, when you have a good day, I mean, I love, there's nothing quite like it. But if you are thinking about it 24 hours a day and you're not having a good day, it's a one-way ticket to disaster.
Yes.
So I tried not to think about it too much at all, apart from when I was either at practice or in the game itself. You imagine, because as you know, I'm not the world's greatest batsman. If I'd been sitting there watching Curtly Ambrose and Wasim Akram, running into bowl, knowing that I was to come in soon, it would have been an absolute debacle because I'd have been out before I even got out in the middle. It was much better for me not to know how much they were swinging the ball. I mean, it could be counterproductive, but I wasn't keen to think about it too much.
You talked about what Ian Chappell said, you and Shane being a combination and him having all these plans.
Yeah.
But watching the highlights, this could be completely off the mark. Like, it looks like you're just trying to bowl the perfect leg spinner.
Yeah.
Time and time again. And when you get it on the spot, the amount you spin the ball was almost unplayable. It was like you're trying to bowl the Jaffa every single ball.
Well, so it's funny. So one of the things that lots of coaches say to young bowlers, and they say it over and over and over again, you're not trying to get a wicket every ball. Well, I reckon that's actually crap.
So you were trying to get a wicket every ball?
Well, I tell you what I was trying to do. I was trying to bowl my best ball every single ball. And so that means, hopefully I get a wicket every ball. But reality is you don't, of course. And the other thing with being a wrist spinner particularly, if I tried to bowl my massive ball every single ball, it's not going to happen. So there's my variation. So it kind of takes a lot of pressure off you, Just try and bowl that best ball and realise that the one that's not quite as good as that is probably still pretty handy. And you never know. And people sometimes laugh at some of my dismissals, because it might be a half tracker or a fully or something like that. But the batsman gets frustrated.
Yes.
And as I've said right at the top, they make one mistake, they're gone. I get to turn around and do it again. Quite often, I'd drag one down and the batsman's decided, I can't stick around doing this too long. I'm going to run down the wicket and hit him over the top. Whoops, Stewie bowled a half tracker. The commentator, an ill-informed commentator might say, did you see him coming? No, I didn't see him coming. It was just a half tracker.
It's a great explanation. So Warne goes out with the diuretic ban.
Yeah.
So you have a year.
Yeah.
With the Australian cricket team, yours as the leg spinner.
Yeah.
11 tests, 53 wickets.
Yeah. It was great.
Was it?
Yeah, it was really good because and I remember Dizzy at the time was, so I think Pidge was out as well. Glenn McGrath was out too. So Jason Gillespie and I and Brett Lee were probably the next crew. Rather than it being Warne and McGrath, we all got Argo. And we all did well, which Steve Waugh was the captain at the time, and he actually mentioned that to us and to the press as well, that, we're very lucky that, the next group of guys has come through. And I think it's, whilst I did enjoy my status as the 2IC, it's good to jump out of the shadows every now and then and know that you're good enough. I think that was the big thing, just knowing that you're good enough,
Warne comes back, a couple of things that I read that you wrote. Warne comes back, he and Murali and you are all in Sri Lanka, and he and Murali are racing to 500 wickets.
Yeah, that's right. And I played, I think I might have played all 3 tests, but one of the tests was actually the only test match that I didn't get a wicket in, which, was a bummer for me. But Warne and Murali they were literally getting 10 wickets a test each. And I remember sitting with Shane before, and we were warming up in non-Canny in Gaul.
Yep.
And I said, we were sitting there warming up, and I said to him, because he just got his 500 wickets, and I said, can you believe, Dennis Lilly, who we all grew up with, thinking
Uncle Dennis.
Yeah, Uncle Dennis. He got 355. You already got 500. I said, man, you're going to get 700 wickets. And he laughed at me and said, you're an idiot. Yeah.
Well, you're proven right.
Yeah, there we go.
So that's one Warne story. If I say the name Mickey Rourke, what does that mean to you?
Oh, Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke. I like the smile.
Yeah.
So sometimes you read these things and you think, is that true? And then I see your smile and I'm like, there's something to this.
So after the 2005 Ashes, we were at a nightclub called Bougie's in London.
Oh, it sounds good to me.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I remember we were in this back room, and Mickey Rourke was Mickey Rourke, the actor, was in London filming, and he'd been, competing for tabloid space with Warne, well, I'm not going to say scandal after scandal, but quite openly happy with being on the front page of the paper, whereas I prefer the back page as much more.
So you weren't on the front page in your Playboy undies,
no, thank you. No, I'd much rather not be on the front page, especially after the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But So we're in the nightclub and, Mickey Rourke's there and he comes over and he says, I hear that, you guys play cricket. And so Warne immediately loves it because he's a movie star. And we had a forearm off.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there in the restaurant in the bar flexing our forearms to see who get the biggest forearm.
Good.
Oh, yeah, no, I got him.
I got him. Because he's in the wrestler at this stage, so he's a big man.
Yeah, but he's not. Yeah. So I got him covered.
You got him in the forearm.
Yeah, I got him in the forearms. Yeah.
There's a photo here.
That's such a stupid thing to do,
but
isn't
it's good. There's a photo here of you and Warne, which in everything I saw, it's just it's a fantastic photo of you two together. I need to describe it, because this is a podcast. So Warne's sitting down. He's got his white floppy on. He's got a massive smile on his face. You're leaning down with like a music system between you. You're drinking a Gatorade with your baggy green on.
And Shane's hand is behind his leg because he's hiding a cigarette.
Is that what he's doing?
That's what he's doing.
So do you know where this that's just a great photo of two mates, two blokes that play cricket together and bowl leagues. I love that photo.
Yeah. I'd suggest. It's Travelex actually. So that's when we're overseas. So I'm not sure where that may actually be in. I've got a Gatorade. That's actually in Sri Lanka.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's not just a Gatorade. That's a vodka and Gatorade.
Is it?
Yes.
So he's hiding the smoke.
He's hiding the smokes, and I'm hiding the vodka. Yeah. That's pre-hydration. I call it.
That's a great photo.
Yeah.
It's so.
It was actually on my fridge for a long time. That
was
photo.
it?
Yeah.
It's a great photo.
Yeah.
So I got you to read some of the article. This part of the article, I don't know if it'll be a more difficult read.
Yeah.
But so you wrote a long article about playing with him, and then actually before you read the article, when and where were you when you found out that Shane had passed?
Look, I mean that was I really couldn't believe. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, we'd had a pretty bad year already. I mean, Dino died, and
Rod Marsh.
Rod Marsh, Ashley Mallett, Peter Philpott. Like there was in a short period of time, and then shortly afterwards, Simo. Short period of time, there were 6 Australian cricketers. Because there's not many of us. And it was really, really bad, actually. But the worst thing was, the first thing I thought of was, that couldn't have happened. Because when somebody's so large, you kind of, can't really imagine.
Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't really. And the thing is, for me, and I guess I don't know what it's like for other former professional cricketers, but I don't really like listening to commentary. It kind of ruins things for me. But Shane was good. It's much the same. Ricky Ponting now is the best as far as I'm concerned. And I don't necessarily like listening to the commentary, but if I'm going to, I'd rather listen to them. And then the first thing I thought of was Shane's family, and the second thing I thought of was, how am I going to watch the cricket now?
Yeah. So you've entitled this under the legacy. Do your best reading this.
Yeah, I'm starting to shake now. I've found the past week difficult in ways I couldn't have anticipated. Initially, I felt like half of me had disappeared because so much of my life has been linked to and compared with Shane's. But I see now that that's the wrong way to look at it. Shane Warne has left the building and it feels empty. It hasn't stopped raining since he passed away. And in the sadder moments, I wonder if the dark clouds will ever pass. And that was true. It did. It just kept raining and raining. They will, of course. When they do, it'll be good to laugh again about the life he led and the stories he gave us. But it's hard to do that now. I used to listen to his commentary on the TV and hear him retelling stories I'd heard hundreds of times and wished he'd stop. Now I just want the TV to replay them over and over because I'll never hear them straight from him again. When I first heard the dreadful news of his death, my thoughts immediately turned to his family. I didn't really even meet the kids, but I always liked their mum, Simone. Shane's parents, Bridget and Keith, became good friends with my folks, Jenny and Terry, during our playing days. The 4 of them would often travel together on tours and sit together during the matches. And Howie, I still speak to Keith. We exchange texts every couple of months, and he checks in with me to see that I'm okay. This is a true story. I can't remember exactly which year it was, but there was a series where Mum and Dad had planned to fly out from Perth to Sydney to watch me play. couple of days before they were due to fly in, I got the call from them saying, look, we've decided to go on holidays with Keith and Bridget instead. I thought, Jesus, even my parents are choosing Shane Warne instead of me. It's a true story. It's a true story. The Warnes are lovely people. Their loss is unfathomable, and I can't imagine their pain. Nathan Lyon this week posted a note to social media saying that there is only one true GOAT. He's right. As Don Bradman has been the benchmark for every generation of batsmen since his retirement, so too will Shane be for every spin bowler who plays the game for the rest of time. I was fortunate enough to play in the same era and for a time that same test attack. So what was it like to live in Shane Warne's shadow? It was an absolute pleasure. Yeah, there we go. It was. I'm very lucky. I really think I'm very lucky. Every spin bowler who has come since him will be compared to him as well.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough to be able to be compared to him in the moment. So I'm the winner, you know. Yeah. You've made me all shaky,
yeah,
Howie.
and you've done the same to me.
Well, there we go. Yeah.
So, Warne retires at the end of 06-07. Yeah. You play 4 more tests against Sri Lanka and the West Indies.
Yeah, I'd planned to play for a lot longer than that. Yeah,
so that was my question. You took 10 wickets in that. So statistically, I can't find these games. Statistically, you probably weren't at your best.
No, I didn't know what was wrong, but I knew something was wrong, and that was the problem. To be honest, I ended up having carpal tunnel surgery. I've had surgery on my elbow a couple of times, all nerve related. It transpires, and I've only found this out in the last few years, that the problem's probably in neither my wrist or my elbow. So what would happen is my fingers would go numb, start tingling.
On your bowling hand? My
bowling hand, both hands actually, which was the clue. When my left hand started going, it's probably something in my neck.
Yes.
But as you can imagine, not being able to feel your fingers as a spin bowler is a debacle. So I went to the West Indies and I found I was bowling like big chest high fullies because I couldn't feel the ball. That final little, piece of touch. What you want your fingers to sort of be like when you rub your hands against plasticine, so slightly tacky.
Yep.
And mine were just like shiny, like they were freezing cold all the time.
Right.
And they still probably are. It's very handy working in a restaurant when you can't feel your fingers because there's no such thing as a hot plate.
So,
yeah, it was disappointing for me because I had planned to play for a lot longer.
So how do you walk away from the game? Like 200 plus wickets, 40 odd tests, a fantastic entertainer, a bums on seats man. That's the outside view. How do you walk away from Test cricket?
Well, it's an impossible thing to do. You know that life is never going to be as, I was going to say, as good. That's not quite true. It's going to be good in different ways, but maybe not as. It's never going to be as filled with adrenaline as it was. I mean, taking 5 wickets at the SCG, or winning a Test match, hitting winning runs for New South Wales. Those moments they fill you so much with adrenaline, and you swell your chest up and like you feel big, and that it's unlikely that'll ever happen again. I'd imagine it's sort of like showdown at the OK Corral. You win that, you feel like you're invincible.
Yeah.
And probably a lot of the feelings that you get as a bowler are inappropriate to feel in real life because you're kind of a bully.
Yep.
And I think that is a bit of a problem, and it probably has been a problem for me, outside, because you train yourself to be a certain thing, and to treat people with a certain lack of respect in certain situations. But you can't, you shouldn't do that in the real world.
Yeah.
And I've probably been guilty of doing that.
It's an interesting observation.
Well, it's dangerous. I mean, I can only imagine what it would be like in a different environment for soldiers. Imagine people who are showing real fatal disrespect for other people. I mean, at least I just shout at people.
So what's the plan when you finish?
Well, Well, I didn't have a plan. So I didn't plan to finish, and I had actually hoped to continue playing for New South Wales, but it just never happened. I thought things would get better, but they didn't.
Physically?
Yeah, they didn't get better. I mean, and they're still not. It doesn't matter anymore, really. I think the big thing is I could bowl today, but I can't bowl tomorrow, and I could probably bowl today for a bit, and then if I came off, I wouldn't be able to bowl later in the day. So it's just, it's not functional. I mean, I did come back and play in the Big Bash in BBL 1, and the only reason I guess that worked is because I had one game a week, and it was 4 overs. And I didn't even play all the game. I missed out on one of the games there too. So I think in the final, I was because my right leg is probably physically the worst part of my body. Is not my fingers. So my right leg is absolutely stuffed. So my knee, I think I had 6 ops on my right knee and 2 on my right ankle, and so in the final, I was taped from my hip to my ankle.
Really? But you win the final.
We won the final, yeah. It was awesome, actually. That was probably one of the highlights of my career, to be honest, because actually at the beginning of the season, the Thunder was tipped to come last, and the Sixers were tipped to come second last. And to win at the Wacker, like full circle, go back to Perth, at the Wacker against the Scorchers, who are, one of the best teams, was pretty cool. And they had a red-hot team too. At the time, both of the Marshes and Adam Voges and Marcus North was in the team too. Simon Kadich was in the side. So they had a red hot team, and we nailed them.